Hey everybody, John Skiba here from the Consumer Warrior YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to talk about Dave Ramsey, and particularly his views on credit scores and just establishing credit in general, and whether I believe he's got it right or whether I believe he's got it wrong. But if this is your first time here to my YouTube channel, please click subscribe. That way you'll be notified each and every week when I put out a new video that'll help you deal with your serious debt problem. All right, so let's talk about credit scores, and particularly, Dave Ramsey, as his views on credit scores. This has been on my mind recently because my son, he is a freshman in college, and he's been reaching out to me with, about questions about how do I establish my credit? Should I have a credit card? He wants to buy a car. He's wanting to know how am I going to qualify for a car loan if I don't have a credit score? And so we've been talking about some of the basics, and so I thought I would do this video, and I'm also going to do a series of videos on some of the basics of credit scores, not only to help you, but to help my son have a better understanding of the credit process and getting a credit score and what goes into that. My views on this have been, they've kind of gone back and forth. They kind of evolved over time. I'm a big proponent of Dave Ramsey. I actually have taught Financial Peace University. I've had several classes where I've been the instructor on that. I'm even certified through the Ramsey Solutions company as one of their certified financial coaches. And so I wholeheartedly agree with his approach to getting out of debt, that your income is your greatest driver of wealth, all of those types of things. Where my views have changed a bit, and where I think I have more of kind of a hybrid approach than Dave Ramsey, is when it relates to credit, as far as having credit cards and having, trying to establish credit and having a good credit score. The reason being is that I've tried to live both ways. My wife and I forever did not have any credit cards. We only used debit cards, tried to stay out of debt. And obviously staying out of debt is, that's a given here. You don't want to be in a bunch of debt. But the ability to have a credit card in today's world, it's very difficult to get by without one. Here's an example. It actually relates to my son when he first started going to school. He was going to a school in Virginia, and he and I flew out there, and I just had debit cards. And it was with the car rental situation. And I was aware that, a lot of car lenders require a credit card. And so I called ahead to the car rental place. I said, look, I'm just having a debit card. I understand you may put a hold on the card, whatever you need to do just so I can get a car. I want to make sure that we're good. They told me, you are good. Show up with the debit card. As long as it has X, Y, and Z, you're good to go to rent a car. So we land there in Virginia. Local time, it was like 10:30 at night. Airport, a small little airport, middle of nowhere. I go up to the car rental place, say I'm here to pick up my car. They had the reservation. I gave him the debit card, and he's like, no, we're not going to rent to you. You got to have a credit card. I said, we don't have one. I confirmed. I was very frustrated because I was like, we had reconfirmed this all ahead of time that it wasn't going to be a problem. And now here I was late at night with my son in a part of the country I didn't know a soul, and there were no other places to rent from. It took some arm twisting and some pleading and some begging and saying, look, you guys told me we could do this, and eventually they did rent to me with the debit card. But it was difficult and it was stressful, and it took a lot of legwork to get there. I compare that to a time just recently where we just had a simple little $500 credit card, and there was no problems, no questions, and we passed right through, got the car. And so there are situations like that where a credit card, I think, is necessary. It's a huge temptation to people to just rack that thing up. Trust me, I've been there, particularly for college kids. I did that when I was in college. I remember my dad yelling at me and yelling at the bank that gave me the credit card. Why would you do this? So we've got to learn how to use them responsibly, but at the same point, understanding what the credit score is and having a good credit score will make your life easier, and it will make everything a lot cheaper for you as you're trying to buy a home, buy a car, all the above. So in this series of videos I'm going to talk about the 5 areas that make up the FICO credit score. FICO is the credit scoring model used by 90% of the market. There's some other ones out there, and I'll touch on those briefly, but FICO is kind of the king right now when it comes to credit score. And so we're going to talk about, I'm going to do a separate video on each of the 5 areas. The 5 areas that make up your credit score are: 1, your payment history. That comprises 35% of your total score. This is whether you're on time with your payments, whether you have a bankruptcy, whether there's delinquencies, all that kind of stuff. The second area is the amount owed. They're going to look at how much credit you have, particularly when it comes to revolving credit, like a credit card, as opposed to how much your credit limit is. The studies have shown that those with good credit use 10 to 20% of their total credit available, while those with the very best credit scores are only using 6% of the total credit available to them. The third area we're going to look at is the length of credit history and how that impacts your credit score. That makes up about 15%. The fourth area is new credit. That makes up 10%, whether you've had recently new credit that you've been able to obtain. And the fifth one is the types of credit that you have. That also accounts for 10% of your score. That's looking at whether there's a mortgage, car loan, credit cards, installment loans, what kind of things they are. So we're going to go through each of those 5 in the next 5 days, discuss how you can most effectively use them to increase that credit score, which will in turn reduce interest rates on things like credit cards, car loans, home loans. It'll make your life a lot easier if you're taking your kid to college and you need to rent a car in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. I can promise you that. So I appreciate you checking in today. If you have questions that you would like to know or discuss on here about credit scores, credit reporting, go ahead and put them down in the comments and I will address them in the coming videos. Thanks for watching today.